This is Jed Disler, and welcome to the Piano Maven, your friendly podcast guide to piano recordings. Probably the only negative thing that I have to say about the pianist Arcadi Volodos is that he records way less than someone of his stature ought to be recording. I think he's one of the greatest pianists and most interesting interpreters around. Yet he's been very stingy when it comes to sanctioning recordings for official release. He's been with Sony Classical since the late 1990s, and it's only every few years that he comes out with a new release. But on the other hand, each new release is even more special. I guess there's value in scarcity, right? But I want to talk about a particular favorite, which is this 2-disc set devoted to the recital that Volodos gave at the Musikverein in Vienna on March 1st, 2009. And this recital adds up to a veritable masterclass in sensuality and tone painting and just fantastic virtuosity. And you hear this in the 4 short works of Scriabin that open the recital. And listen to how slowly and how colorfully and with such controlled freedom that he plays the prelude in B-flat minor, opus 11, number 16, with those slow unison octaves that quote the theme from Chopin's Funeral March. It's just a remarkable performance. He also gives a fantastic performance of the Sonata number 7, the sonata that Scriabin called the White Mass. And if you follow this performance with a score, you will see that Volodos is paying careful attention to just about all of the composer's expressive directives, such as avec trouble, with trouble, or joyeux, joyous, and all kinds of things like that. So it's a very meticulous performance, but it also sounds very free and imaginative at the same time. One could argue that the Volodos performance of Maurice Ravel's Valse Noble et Sentimentale borders on the affettuoso, certainly compared to pianists like Louis Lortie and Jean-Ephraim Bavouzet, who are much more forthright and direct and transparent in many ways, or even Arthur Rubinstein for that matter, or Emmanuel Ax. But there is a real sense of purpose in the expressive conceits that Volodos serves up, I think. Perhaps the grand prize of this whole recital is Schumann's piano cycle Waldszenen, and in my review of this Volodos recital for ClassicsToday.com, I wrote that Volodos gives one of the most ravishing performances of Waldszenen since Sviatoslav Richter's 1956 reference studio recording. The opening piece alone tells the story with the most gorgeously timed rubatos and inflections of phrase. And in Jager auf der Lauer, you listen to how Volodos voices and gauges those detached chords, and the sheer evenness of his unison runs. That's amazing pianism and amazing music making. You get the best of both worlds. And also notice his creamy, non-pedaled legato touch in Einsame Blumen. And the pianist paces Verrufen still slowly, and he articulates the dotted rhythms in multi-leveled dynamic plateaus that suggest the oral equivalent of 3-dimensional chess. Did I really write that? I guess I did. And the prophet bird lingers in the ear long after the little bird flies away, on account of Volodos's unerring timing and his proportioned tempo fluctuations. Also on this recital, Volodos plays the Dante Sonata by Liszt, and in his hands it sounds much more like a tone poem than an endless octave etude. where Volodos unleashes his full palette of tone colors and orchestral sonorities. He actually monkeys around a lot with the text, filling out chords and adding octaves and doing all kinds of little bells and whistles here and there. So it's almost like a Volodos transcription of the Liszt original. But I have to say it totally works, and I think that had Liszt heard what Volodos did to the text, I think he would have agreed with him. At least I would like to think so. In any event, if you haven't heard Volodos in Vienna, this is definitely something I recommend to all piano mavens, and this is a recital that I often return to with increased pleasure each time I hear it. This is Jed Disler, and you've been listening to The Piano Maven, your friendly podcast guide to piano recordings, and I look forward to being with you for our next episode. Take good care.